Here we go, chapter 6, small business management, entrepreneurship. So just something you might see on Instagram or Facebook. When I graduated high school, a lot of students went to college, and then there was always a few students who, were like, oh, I'm going to start my own business, or I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to do my own thing. And this is kind of poking fun at the entrepreneur lifestyle, because a lot of people think, working part time or working for yourself is this thing where you can go and travel and not work hard and make your own schedule. When the realities is that being an entrepreneur is much more difficult than being a normal salaried, not normal, but just a regular salaried employee or working for somebody else. It requires a lot of discipline, a lot of work. These people who say, oh, I work 4 hours a day, that might be maybe when they're 20 years into their career. But the first 5 or 10 years for most entrepreneurs are very, very tough. And then, we've had a big surge in entrepreneurship, after COVID, with just kind of this, there's been a big revolt or like people going away from working for other people, because the reason I say that is, well, first with the pandemic, a lot of people were just fired from their job for no reason, right? And so people realize, like, wow, these companies don't have any loyalty to me. Why should I give my blood, sweat, and tears and hard work when at the end of the day, if I'm just a number, they can fire me at any time? And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people do entrepreneurship. There's that. And then there's a big one that we're going to get to in a second, is just, the idea that you can own something yourself. Nobody could take it away from you. You can make the decisions, as well as maybe you can become extremely wealthy because of your efforts, right? Where it's really hard to do that working for somebody else unless you really work your way up. And so this is kind of just making fun of certain things like cold brew, Ty Lopez, scooters, have to have a MacBook. And then, oh, have you seen the latest Shark Tank? I'm sure by now there's going to be a different show, but there's The Profit, Shark Tank, lots of these shows that shed light on entrepreneurship and starting your own business. 5 reasons to start your business right away. So, maybe you're, why not? Why not graduate high school and just go straight into it? There are some good reasons for it. Like, for example, you don't have a mortgage or kids. I can tell you personally that, once you have kids and a mortgage, you can't be taking those types of risks because people depend on you. You kind of need a stable paycheck, or else it's not just you that would end up on the street, but also your kids, right? And your family. So it's way better when you're living at home, and worst thing that happens is you just got to live with your parents a little longer. Number 2, you can survive on little funds and work long hours. So yeah, absolutely. I think you have a lot more energy as you're younger. Obviously you could take care of your body and still be very vibrant at an older age, but I when I was younger, studying for school and things, a lot of people pull all-nighters, or, you go to bed at 2 a.m., you wake up at 8 a.m. You could do a lot more. You can get away with that kind of schedule and diet and things like that. Number 3, no disruption to your career path that hasn't started yet. That one's not a big deal to me. The whole idea of, like, you don't want to quit a job and then just not, and then do entrepreneurship, because what happens if it fails and you need to go back into the work environment, and you have a break in your resume. There's ways of getting around that, saying like, oh, I went back to school, or I had a kid, I had children. There's ways to fix number 3. I don't think it's as big as they say. Number 4, you may have more energy and enthusiasm. Maybe, yeah. And then 5, if you succeed, you have long-term financial gains. Yeah, you'll be able to enjoy that money for a much longer period of time. And now the opposite, right? Why not? Why is it, maybe you're 60, or maybe you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur at 60 years of age, and you're thinking like, man, not man or whoever, hey, I want to do this, but I don't feel like I have time, or I feel like I've lost my shot. I should have done it a lot earlier. And so, know though that there's a lot of good reasons why you actually could start while you're later. Number 1 is the highest rate of entrepreneurship activity is in the 55 to 64 group. Since 1996, older Americans have opened businesses at a higher rate than 20 to 34-year-olds. Older entrepreneurs have, this is a big one, right? This is great, which is learn on somebody else's dollar, right? Why take all the, if For example, if I want to open up a restaurant and I've never worked in a restaurant before, it's a bad idea because I'm going to make so many mistakes. Why don't I work for somebody else for a few years or 10 years and become really, 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 really good and then take all that experience and then open my own restaurant, right? There's a lot to be said for that. So as far as why, we already went over this, right? Opportunity to make your own schedule, profit, you make a lot of money potentially being an entrepreneur, independence, you make your own decisions, your schedule, and then the challenge. This one is we haven't spoke about yet, which is that it's like a mountain you're climbing, right? And it's just every stage of the mountain you got to get up, you got to you're fighting a different fire, you're trying to do, develop products and hire people and make sales. And so it's just every day is a new challenge versus the conversely, or the opposite, is like if you worked at Starbucks, there's variation in your job, but you clock in, you sweep the floors, you turn on the machines, you get the cash register ready, right? There's a certain consistency there, and eventually it might not be challenging for you anymore. And so that's when people tend to get bored at their jobs, look at the clock, want to leave, right? So you might not get that when you're working for yourself. Every day is so exciting. Why do people take it? They have a great idea, right? If you have an idea that fills a customer's needs, and you have the skills and resources to produce that product or service, and then you could sell it for a reasonable price. This is a big one right here. If you could sell it for a reasonable price, a lot of people don't realize, you can't just be breaking even. You need to be able to make a profit, and a good one, to make a sustainable, business model. Okay, and then you have to do it in enough time. And then you got to keep your business moving. You got to pay taxes every year. A lot of people don't realize at the end of the year, you got to pay taxes. The IRS wants their money. So there goes, 20, 30%. Entrepreneurship within firms. So instead of entrepreneurship, there is something called intrapreneurship, which is basically Google does this, 3M does this. There's a famous story of Frito-Lay's doing this. This is how Hot Cheetos was invented. But basically, you let people who work within a company, within a 9-to-5 job, a salaried position, you allow them to work on entrepreneurial efforts. So like Facebook does this, Google does this, where they'll give you like 4 hours a week to just work on whatever you want. Maybe it's a new software. Maybe you want to do some coding. Maybe you want to work on a new product idea. And if they like it, you show them and they like it, they'll share the proceeds or the royalties with you. So 3M, that's how they got their Post-it note idea. All right. There's also micropreneurs, right? So it's somebody who just wants to run, I kind of think of these people as home business people. Maybe you just want to sell books, maybe you want to sell video games. You want to drop ship things. There's lots of people that just want to make their own business, within their house, something small. They don't necessarily want to be entrepreneurship and build this big, crazy, big company, but they just want to have a small business. And more and more people are doing this, especially with COVID, a lot more people, taking advantage of working from home. So, there's a lot, and you all know this now after COVID, you're watching this, we're all used to working at home and having those distractions. This is one of my favorite questions is, when you look at really famous people, is it luck or hard work that made them so successful? And there's a really famous podcast I really like on NPR called How I Built This. I highly recommend you check it out. And the question is it luck or hard work that got you successful, when they ask these millionaires or billionaires? And, they say a little bit of both. A lot of times they're like, we can't have one without the other. But, luck is, you can't, it's really hard to be there. The timing is luck. There's many things. But the one thing you can control is hard work, right? You can control that you're working really hard. You're putting your best foot forward. So I like the saying that hard work makes luck, right? Or having that hard work makes it so when luck does come around, you can take advantage of it. I agree with that a lot. There are some people that are just straight up lucky and they don't work hard and they're just lucky. Does that happen? Yes. Is it rare? Yes. Is it more often that people who work hard, like let's just talk about musicians, when you look at like hip hop artists or rock bands or whoever, they didn't just get successful overnight. They had to work really hard. They had to make, work in the studio and make music and tour and market their band. It's a lot of hard work. Now, do some of them get lucky? Yes, you see that all the time. Bands who just go get hot really fast, but do they stay hot? You got to ask yourself that. Like, are they sustainable as well? So for the small business portion, opening up your own small business, I differentiate between small business and entrepreneurship in that small business to me is like opening up becoming a mechanic or a pet grooming store or a flower shop or a pizza shop. Those are small businesses to me because you're doing a business model that already works and you're just kind of replicating it. You're not really entrepreneurial in that you're doing something new that hasn't been done before. When I think of entrepreneurship, I think about technology companies. I think about people trying something new that's never been done before. Maybe it's the way you do something like delivery or in an app or something like that. I think of Tesla, right? They're a very entrepreneurial company with robotics, AI. They're even doing the brain implants as well. So lots of interesting things coming out of there. But what are the causes of small business failure? Because a lot of people start businesses, and restaurants, for example, the statistic is something like 1 or 2 out of 10 restaurants succeed past the first year, right? A lot of restaurants will make it the first year, but making it past that first year into year two, it has a very, very low success rate. But a lot of people want to open bars and restaurants. So what are the reasons why they lose? Well, here you go. It's on your screen right here. There's so many reasons, but a lot of it has to, if you notice, a lot of them has to do with cash flow, right? Having capital, cash, and using it wisely and managing it. Now, why do they succeed? So you can see here, there's a couple of tidbits of information here, but it's basically, being very aware, adapting to the changing times, and being able to do something that nobody else is doing. It really comes down to that. So there's a little bit about small business success and failure and entrepreneurship.